Hi guys, it's Stock Curry, and the Consumer Confidence Report was released today, and it was scary. You need to know what's in it because this has huge implications for the future of the stock market, the economy, and a possible recession. So let's get into it. Before the Consumer Confidence Report was released, the S&P Case-Shiller Index on home prices came out, and it showed that home prices weakened sharply to end 2022. Higher mortgage rates ultimately weighed home prices down in December. Prices are now down 4.4% from their June peak. Craig Lazzara, managing director at the S&P, said the prospect of stable or higher interest rates means that mortgage financing remains a headwind for home prices, while economic weakness, including the possibility of a recession, may also constrain potential buyers. Home prices may well continue to weaken. So it was not good news for the housing market this morning, and this had a bit of a negative effect on the stock market as well, because as the housing market declines, this could ultimately cause the stock market to decline a little bit as well. People might have to pull a little bit more money out of the stock market in order to buy a house or afford the monthly mortgage payments on it. So this could cause stock prices to go down, which is why we saw a little bit of decline in the stock market when this housing data came out. Of course, 2008 is still fresh in the minds of many investors, and we all remember what happened in 2008 when housing prices declined. It caused a pretty significant decline in the stock market. Now, this is nothing like 2008 as far as housing is concerned. In fact, mortgage delinquencies are at one of the lowest levels ever. Compare that to 2008 when mortgage delinquencies were rising well into 2006 and 2007. We're not in that situation at all. So it's not the same, but still a decrease in home prices is certainly going to have a little bit of impact as a decrease in the stock market. Now, after the home price index data came out, we then got the consumer confidence data, and it was not good. The Consumer Confidence Index decreased in February for the second month in a row. While consumers felt like the present situation had improved slightly over last month, the Expectations Index fell further to 69.7 from a downwardly revised 76 in January. Notably, the Expectations Index has now fallen well below 80, which is the level which often signals a recession within the next 12 months. And the Expectations Index has been below 80 for 11 of the past 12 months. This is a huge red flag that consumers feel like even though the economy is good right now, we are probably going to have a recession before the end of the year. And if consumers feel like we're going to enter into a recession and layoffs are going to continue to mount, then consumers are more likely to cut back on their spending. And if they cut back on spending, then theoretically, this should cause the inflation to go down because consumers are spending less. Now, it's bad because it means that we might actually enter a recession. Consumers spending less can actually trigger a recession. As consumers spend less, that causes companies to make less money, which in turn forces them to do more layoffs. Those layoffs in turn cause consumer spending to go down, and it's this effect that kind of spirals out of control until the Fed starts to lower interest rates once again. However, it does have a good effect in the short term in that it shows the Federal Reserve that expectations are for the economy to get worse, which means consumers will probably spend less, which means inflation will probably come down, which means the Federal Reserve is more likely to do a 25 basis point rate hike at their next meeting instead of a 50 basis point rate hike. So in the short term, it is good news for the stock market, even though it's bad news for the stock market in the long term. So that's why when this consumer confidence report came out around 10 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, we saw the stock market rise pretty good. It was down quite a bit in the morning, and then it rose up and even turned green for a little while. Of course, it did eventually turn negative once again, but this was actually good news for the stock market in the short term. But remember, it's bad news for the stock market and the economy in the long term. And in a change from prior recessions, Ross Stores says rising prices continue to hit lower income shoppers. And Ross Stores is now forecasting a miss on their earnings expectations. Now, this is really interesting because in prior recessions, we've seen discount retailers such as Ross, McDonald's, Walmart, and others have really good earnings as people stop spending money on the more expensive products and they start spending money on more generic names and lower cost goods that are typically sold at these discount retailers. However, Ross Stores, which is a discount retailer, is now coming out and saying that their lower income shoppers are actually spending less money, which is hurting Ross's earnings. Now, this is really interesting because in most recessions, people cut back on spending and they just buy cheaper goods, but they continue to spend. This time around, we are seeing consumers stop spending altogether. Not only are they not buying the more expensive goods, they're not even buying the cheaper goods. Consumers appear to be spending all of their money on groceries and necessities, and they're not spending any money on extra items, which means stores like McDonald's, Ross, and some of the dollar stores that normally perform very well in a recession might not actually perform that well during this recession. Now, Walmart is the one outlier because they have a huge grocery chain, and Walmart can continue to bring in money even as people shift their spending away from goods and into groceries. So Walmart might be okay, but a lot of other retailers, it looks like they're going to be in trouble, even if they are a discount retailer. This is something we're really going to have to watch and keep our eyes on. The historically good defense stocks might not be that good this time around. And last week, we already saw Walmart and Home Depot miss earnings expectations. Target, pretty much the same thing. They did beat expectations barely. Their holiday quarterly sales rose 1% from last year. Nothing to write home about, but it was a slight earnings beat. However, their forecast was not good. They did warn of a continued slowdown in earnings and revenue. Target stock was muted on the day, up 1%, down about 0.2% after hours. Norwegian Cruise Lines also reported earnings earlier this morning, and unfortunately, a soft outlook or forward guidance combined with a wider than expected loss despite strong demand caused their stock to fall about 10% on the day. Not only was NCLH down over 10% on the day, it continued to fall after hours. And Rivian also reported earnings. Their earnings were a bit mixed. They had a slight beat on earnings, but a slight decline in revenue expectations. But most notably, they had a very underwhelming EV production outlook. Despite rising 4% during the day in expectations of good earnings, the stock was down about 10% after hours. And Novavax was the big loser after it was announced that a lot of people are not getting COVID booster shots. As a result, Novavax had a huge earnings and revenue miss. The stock was down a massive 25% after hours. And now moving on to our daily layoff news, General Motors is cutting another 500 salaried employees. As layoffs from companies across the board continue to mount, this is ultimately going to put a significant downturn in the U.S. economy and eventually lead to a recession. And we saw a lot of tech stocks reporting layoffs last year, we had talked about the fact that these layoffs would eventually expand to other industries and segments of the economy. And we are now seeing that with General Motors and a lot of media companies and others doing layoffs. So this is just the start of something that typically balloons. Layoffs usually start out very small, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and companies end up doing more and more layoffs, and they end up doing layoffs in larger and larger numbers. And that's exactly what we've been seeing. It's all really bad news for the economy going into the future. We'll have to see how things play out. Now, just because the economy looks bad and the chances of a recession happen to be increasing, this does not mean that you have to lose money in the stock market as stocks go down. You can trade options and make money even as the stock market goes down. If you want to learn how to do that, I have a coaching program where I will teach you how to trade options and how to make consistent profits no matter which way the market goes. And to make the coaching program even more valuable, I have just added premium alerts to the Discord. This includes dark pool trades, option sweeps, popular options, technical breakouts, so you can trade even if you don't know technical analysis, trade ideas, insider trades, analyst grades, and social media spikes. These premium alerts normally cost $700 per year if you were to buy them on your own, but you now get them free as part of the We Profit Day and Night coaching program. If you want to know more about the coaching program and get access to these premium alerts, schedule a call with my onboarding specialist who can give you the pricing and go over the whole program with you, answer any questions you might have, and just see if this is a good fit for you or not. You can schedule a call with my onboarding specialist at weprofitdayandnight.com. That's weprofitdayandnight.com. If you got a lot out of this video, then be a good friend and share this video with your friends and family so that they will know what's going on in the market as well. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, click the bell icon and click all so that you can get notified when my next video is released. And if you missed my last video from yesterday where I explained why now is a great time to buy put options, make sure you go watch the last video that I uploaded here.